Greetings. What is up? Welcome. Thanks for checking out my YT channel, Sequential Geek. Suck G in the house. Time to learn. Absorb the brain dump. The data relay. My 411 bringing it out to y'all. That's right, and I'm starting it off right here with a Marvel feature. Presents issue number 4. Published May 1976. Every other month this comic book came out. It's the first Red Sonja comic book. It lasted 7 issues. The issues 2, 3, 4, and 5 are written by Bruce Jones. Bruce Jones, he was known for writing Khazar the Savage, the first half of the 80s. He also wrote that Incredible Hulk comic book where Bruce Banner was on the run as a fugitive. Comic book came out like 21, 22 years ago, and that's the story from which the Edward Norton Incredible Hulk 2008 movie was based off of. Bruce Jones writing this Red Sonja issue number 4. Frank Thorne. Frank Thorne has become this overlooked, underrated legend as far as I'm concerned. I just found out about him from checking out these Marvel feature comics, my last few vids. He's doing the cover and the interiors for issues 2 through 7. So, check this out. Roy Thomas. He was writing Conan over at Marvel Comics, and after reading a Robert E. Howard Conan story that had this character called Red Sonja in it, Roy Thomas decided to incorporate her in his Conan comics that he was writing for Marvel. Well, here we are 3 years later, and Roy Thomas successfully got Red Sonja her own comic book. Roy Thomas wrote issues number 1, and he wrote issues 6 and 7. So the comic shop didn't have the first issue and the last issue. Issue 6. This is cover date September 1976. Check that out. Frank Thorne doing the cover and the interiors. This is not bad shape. Yeah, those other examples that I displayed, my last couple comic book haul videos showing off those Frank Thorne pages. Frank Thorne has definitely become, I'd say, like one of my favorite artists. I mean, presently I'd say he's my favorite, but he's up there with the top 5. Just really impressed, especially compared to today's mediocre standards with the big 2. And there on the last page, we have a cameo, Conan and Belit. Yeah, it says it's continued in Conan 66, but actually it's taken off from Conan 66. Continues in Conan issue number 67, and then this last issue that comes up, issue 7, has Red Sonja and Conan on the cover. 2001: A Space Odyssey, issue number 10. Newsstand. There is a 35-cent variant to this. Issues 1 through 10 were written and drawn by Jack Kirby. He created the series, and in issue number 8, Jack Kirby created the character Mr. Machine. Yup. So this scientist, Dr. Stack, he was developing these military androids and considered model X-51 his son, and named him Aaron Stack. Pretty cool, man. So this series ended here with this last issue, issue number 10, and then this is cover date September 1977. So then in 1978, the series Machine Man started. Check out the action. And Machine Man, they had to use the name Machine Man because check out that action, that Jack Kirby greatness right there. because I guess there was a copyright infringement using the term Mr. Machine. And I'm not sure if that's why this series ended, but Machine Man started next year. And Jack Kirby wrote and drew issues 1 through 9, and then it lasted until issue 18, where the legend Steve Ditko was taking over Dude Machine Man. Avengers number 152. It's a Jack Kirby cover with Dan Adkins doing the inks. Out of October 1976 cover date for this monthly comic book. First appearance of Black Talon. It's the resurrection of Wonder Man, this issue. Upside Down Cross by Jack Kirby. Jerry Conway did the script to Steve Englehart plot. And that is John Buscema who did the interior pencils. John Buscema. So John Buscema's son, Sal Buscema, did the interiors for this comic book, Avengers number 173. And the cool thing about this comic book, came out in July 1978, happens to be the first David Michelini Avengers script, as a matter of fact. He did just this issue, actually. There's a two-part story. This is the first half right here, and George Perez does the covers for each of these. You got the Collector. That's right. Both newsstand copies in great condition. It's July and August 1978. And in this story, follows up from the Avengers and all these superheroes that are disappearing. They're just disappearing out of the blue. Nobody knows why. And the remaining Avengers find out that they're ending up in some spot out in space that's like the size of a telephone booth. And they're like, how can that be? And they find out with the help of the Guardians of the Galaxy how it is actually just in another dimension. And they use this technology from Guardians of the Galaxy to help teleport them to this large construct that the Collector is housing all these superheroes that he's kidnapped. Now this second half, covered by George Perez, it's Dave Wenzel doing the interior pencils, but it's written by Bill Mantlo. Interesting thing about that is, so the precursor to the first event, Marvel Superhero Secret Wars, is that 3-issue limited series that came out a couple years earlier in 1982 called Marvel Superhero Contest of Champions. The last 2 issues were written by Mark Grunwald and Steve Grant, I think. John Romita Jr. did the art, but that series was kicked off. The first issue was by Bill Mantlo. He did the second half of this. Just like in Marvel Superhero Contest of Champions, which featured the Grandmaster and the Collector. They were collecting all the heroes, collected them all in this stadium out in space while everyone on Earth was held in stasis, frozen, and then they cherry-picked select few number of heroes to have like 4 different battles, 3 different battles out on Earth while everybody was frozen. Anyway, they introduced some new characters, but that first issue was written by Bill Mantlo, and this is written by Bill Mantlo, where the Collector explains to these Avengers that were trying to free everybody. He was saying how he's one of the elders of the universe, and he is preparing for the coming of Thanos. He said he's been preparing for eons, for thousands of years. And at this point, he decides he needs to collect superheroes. So this is the Collector collecting superheroes, taking on the Avengers with all the best intentions in mind because of the coming of Thanos that he's trying to deal with. His first appearance is in Avengers number 28, by the way. Ghost Rider, issue number 76. Let's keep that copper train moving. Ghost Rider number 76 newsstand, cover date January 1983. So it's J.M. DeMatteis who is writing these Ghost Rider comics towards the end. Cover is by Bob Budiansky, and the interiors are by Dan Perlin. So this particular comic, Ghost Rider 76, it's the first appearance of Saturnine. He's this demon. He's in hell. He's the guardian of the Road of Lost Souls. He serves under Mephisto's rival, Asmodeus. And Saturnine dies after being outwitted by Johnny Blaze and Zarathos in this story. He does reappear in 2010 in the comic book series Pixie Strikes Back, but he almost overpowers the spirit of vengeance, Zarathos, who's under Mephisto, Yet it's Blaze and Zarathos that outwit Saturnine, and he ends up dead. Ghost Rider 76. Ghost Rider number 80, second to last issue, written by J.M. Demetrius, as well as the last issue, Ghost Rider number 81. The covers and interiors are by Bob Badansky, and this is a cool stained glass window image for all you stained glass collectors. This last issue right here, I counted 7 color breaking spine creases. Besides that, pages are like a bright white. I mean, you know, the pages might have like that newsprint, slightly off-white color to it, but it's not like tanned. And the back is clean, it's clear, but there are those spine ticks. What does that make this, like a 6.0? I don't know. I gotta get my grading skills up. It's really important to learn grading, I know that. This thing's awesome. The condition of this newsstand copy, clean spine, clean back, except I'd say half the size of the letter O. It looks like some varmint chewed the back cover at the top edge. So if anybody has any grading experience, any feedback on how an animal chewing just the back cover just a little bit versus a tear, if that has any type of grading points, if it's worse than a tear, let me know. Thanks. Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I decided to get these on a whim. I saw these randomly and just figured, I know that the art is not by Kevin Eastman or Peter Laird, but it's still a Turtles book from the Copper Age. Issues 3 and 5. Both of these covers are by Ryan Brown. That's Brown without an E, so I don't think it's the same Ryan Brown as your curse words or what 8 Billion Genies fame, but covers are by Ryan Brown. The interior artwork is by Jim Lawson. So Ryan Brown co-wrote issue number 3 with Kevin Eastman, and Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird teamed up to finish off this series. They wrote issues 5, 6, and 7. I think they also wrote the first issue too. So it only lasted 7 issues. Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This particular issue, number 5, is from May 1988. Copper Age. Which is the first appearance of Shatter? Which one? Is it this one on the left? Is it this the second printing of this one? Huh? Do you know? Do you know? I'll give you a hint. This is the first appearance of Shatter right here. So this is the special, one-shot special. It is cover date, what, like June 1985, except came out like end of February, beginning of March, depending on what sources I look up. So I think it's like beginning of March. And yes, this is the first computerized comic. That is true. From First. And it turns out that this story continues in 8-page installments in the other First comic book called John Sable, issues 25 through 30. So those 6 issues of John Sable had a backup story, 8-page installments that continued from here. And then John Sable, by the way, I know Gene Simmons wanted to make that a television show. He wanted to co-produce that by the early 80s, interestingly enough. After those John Sable stories, issues 25 through 30, then you get the ongoing issue of Shatter. It only lasted 14 issues, not bad, I guess. 14 issues. Issues 4, 5, 6, and 7 are not considered entirely digital because a lot of the pages, they said, got scanned. But the rest of it, and that first appearance, this one shot here, yes, this is the first computerized comic. The artist, Mike Saenz, Saenz. He did make this on the Macintosh Plus and Mac Paint, and artwork printed on Apple Dot Matrix Image Writer printers. Also, please note, if you're a hardcore Shatter fan, or if you got some digital comic collection going, check out the last issue of the British computer hobbyist magazine called Big K. Big K, the last issue of that came out in March 1985, because that reprinted one of the John Sable stories. I think it was the first one, just like the first 4 pages of it in black and white. Also, I think it'd be nice to credit the person that scripted this, Peter B. Gills. So that's Mike Sains on the art and Peter B. Gills script and shatter. Nice cyberpunk goodness from the 80s. The One. This is written and drawn by Rick Veitch. Rick Veitch, I pointed out in the past, around the same time as this comic book came out. This is a July 1985 cover date for this bi-monthly 6-issue series. And around the same time in the comic book Miracle Man issues 9 and 10, Rick Veitch did the interior artwork. He also did the comic book series Brat Pack and the comic book series Max Immortal as well. I would like to note that he's known for doing a lot of the deconstruction of the superhero type themed stories. Also, you could say he does a lot of stories that involve a superhero that is more about being a super being, right? Takes that superhero concept into like a super being level. This guy is just bragging about how he can play off as an arms dealer, NATO and Warsaw, the United States versus, Russia, and a nuclear war would be in his best interest. And of course, then the nuclear war happens. This is all written and drawn by Rick Veitch. He's still alive doing Max Immortal comics through the Amazon publishing system. But the nuclear bombs, they go off, but they don't blow up. There's this radiation that emits, and most people fall asleep. Turns out you're either going to be part of this collective consciousness when you're asleep called the One. And you're either part of the One or the other. Most people are part of the One. As you can see, this woman realizes her kid who is asleep is a part of this consciousness. He's like, aren't you here with me? You're not with the other, are you? So immediately she falls asleep. So, I don't know. It seems like, I haven't read this whole thing yet. It seems like the people that are awake are more maybe kind of like rats in a sinking ship. More self-centered, out to get themselves. So I don't know if Rick Veitch is saying the future is you're either going to be losing your sense of self as part of this One, or the other option is you're fucked. There is no system available for people that aren't part of the collective. I don't know. So I have to read this whole thing to find out. Also, though, interesting to note, these superheroes that the government makes as a backup plan in case the nukes don't work. I think maybe Mark Millar was influenced by this when he wrote The Authority, because in issues, 13, 14, 15, with that evil Avengers version superhero group that involved evil incarnation of Jack Kirby. And that Mark Millar story, remember that? Where he has, Mark Millar has this character that's like, what if Jack Kirby ended up working for the Department of Defense at the Pentagon instead of writing comics? So this guy is like evil and creates these evil superheroes, people of mass destruction. Anyway, this looks like a trip. Wow. Yeah. So I got issue 1 and 2 from Epic, the publisher, Epic Comics. Trade paperback, Weapon X. So I'm thinking I'm going to collect stuff that's like trade paperback if it's in like super nice condition. This had like crisp white pages, some slight flaws, some slight scraping on the edge on the back, but the cover, everything else looked great. The spine. This is the first printing from April 1994. And first of all, I remember reading interviews with Dan Buckley and Joe Quesada from like 22, like that new Marvel era, 22 years ago. And they were saying how they wanted to build up a collection of trade paperbacks to compete against manga for shelf space. And given Marvel wants to gain shelf space and build a library of trade paperbacks, I think they're on that more quantity than quality route. So they have a lot of people writing comic book single issues that are very decompressed because they're written to be a trade paperback. You could definitely see Bendis was doing that by 2004. In any case, given, the United States is it like the only country that has, single issue, monthly issues, US and Canada maybe? But I think in the future, the main form of consuming Sequential in a physical form is going to be some form of trade paperback. So if they were trying to build up their libraries already by around 2003, or give or take a year, right? So I'm thinking anything before that year, early 2000s, and you can get a trade paperback. If you can't get the hardcover, see if you can get a first print, really nice condition trade paperbacks, because it's all about what people dispose of, what people are beaten up. So trade paperbacks aren't really sought after, but hell yeah, they're going to end up being slabbed. Get that CGC'd, right? I don't really have any intentions of getting this slabbed, but yeah, they will be slabbed in the near future. Trade paperbacks are going to be the main form of consuming comics in physical form. Real quick, we've all seen this. Same thing with the trade paperbacks, though, because just that date, early 2000s, because anything before like the year 2002, a trading card, a magazine, a price guide, they're going to say this is the first appearance of Wolverine. But whatever, if it's 180 or 181, I got both facsimiles here for fun. And then I got a reader copy. That's a Len Wein script with Herb Trimpe doing the cover and interior artwork. 1974, right? Yeah. A couple years before the first appearance of Wolverine, Marvel Spotlight issue 5 came out, cover date August 1972. This is a reprint right here that came out 20 years later in 1992. It's written by Gary Friedrich, Mike Ploog doing the artwork. Except this cover from 1992 is by Mark Texeira and Jimmy Palmiotti on the inks. Keep an eye out for the comic book magazine that came out in 1971, the year before the first appearance of Ghost Rider. It's a magazine-sized comic book written by Gary Friedrich called Hell Rider. Hell, Hell hyphen Rider. Hell Rider. It's this guy, I think he's an entertainment lawyer in LA, African-American superhero, anti-hero. It's got a motorcycle with a flamethrower in the front of it. I'd say he's kind of like a precursor to Ghost Rider. Hell Rider lasted 2 issues. It's also got the first appearance of Butterfly in there too. Gary Friedrich creation. The second appearance of Ghost Rider reprinted right here. Issue number dos, the original Ghost Rider out of 1992. This cover now is by Javier Saltares. Javier Saltares teamed up with writer Howard Mackey for the first issue of this series when they created the Danny Ketch Ghost Rider. This is issue 31 I found in an unopened poly bag, and nice newsstand copy, unopened. It's the last part of the Rise of the Midnight Sun series. Each of these poly bags come with a poster. Let me check, see which this poster is. All right, so it's the one with the Ghost Rider. Sweet. I believe that cover and interiors, as well as this poster, are by Andy Kubert. Joe Kubert on inks. Some more new Marvel goodness. This is out of 2002. I was looking through my spreadsheet, just checking what I got, looking up titles, doing searches. Turns out I only had 2 issues of this 4-issue limited series. And the serendipity of it, I swear to God, because I have not seen shock collars in any dollar bins, back issue bins recently. I don't look for it, but pretty thorough. I would have recognized this. I haven't seen any, and then as soon as I look in my spreadsheet and I realize I need issues 3 and 4, boom, pops up shock collars number 3. So just got to get issue 4. If you like this artwork, it's by Brett Waldele. Script by Gary Phillips. Out of Oni Press. 1 more issue to go. Check that out. It's a couple years earlier. It's Hellspawn, issue 1, cover date August 2000. Somebody help me out here. Was Brian Michael Bendis writing stories decompressed for this Hellspawn? I just got this first issue, bagged and boarded it. Haven't read any Hellspawn. Can somebody help me out? Was Bendis writing shit real boring, or was this cool? Did he actually was he actually told, like, don't write this for a trade paperback, just write a fun story every issue? This is Hellspawn, and Bendis wrote issues 1 through 6. That's right, Brian Michael Bendis, the writer. The first 10 issues are by Ashley Wood. Pretty sweet. Ashley Wood did the covers of issues 1 through 11, actually, and the interiors or until issue 10. And then Ben Templesmith took over until the last issue, issue 16. And who took over after Brian Michael Bendis left? That's right, you got the 30 Days of Night team. Steve Niles with Ben Templesmith art. I mean, shit, Ben Templesmith didn't start doing artwork until like around issue 11, so for the interiors, so that meant Ashley Wood was doing the artwork with Steve Niles, which I'm sure would have been really cool. Gotta keep my eye out for those beat up copies of Hellspawn for me to read. Silent Dragon! Number 1. Silent Dragon! Number 2. Andy Diggle. It's a 6-issue limited series with art covering interiors by Lionel Francis Yu. Some more cyberpunk goodness. This is Tokyo in the year 2063, 40 years in the future. In case anyone's wondering, as far as the whole cyberpunk aspect, the dates and locations, I'm not sure the date of Shatter, but I believe this is a futuristic version of Chicago. Also, I love those cyberpunk type covers, or just covers that have like really cool images of like cyberpunk looking motorcycle cover. I think I'm going to start collecting those. I've already got this one. I got Tokyo Ghost. Cyberpunk babe on a motorcycle is not a bad choice for covers to collect. Turns out this 7 Years in Darkness comic book is 4 issues. There's A and B covers for each of these 4 issues that are written and drawn by Joseph Schmalk. So for the first time in 200 years, the Academy of Black Magic has opened up its doors. They're taking in 72 students, and only 7 will be able to graduate and walk out alive. By the way, this has a lot of variant covers. I didn't realize that till I was just trying to find issue number 2's C cover, because I think that's a 1 per store variant. Anyway, I like it. It's really the only other one that I'm interested in getting outside of just finishing off the next 2 issues with the A and the B covers. The Ben Templesmith cover. That's the C cover for issue 2. It's really cool. I like it. Looking for it. Yep. Got these little giveaways. Manga samplers from DC. A couple of those. So I'm collecting these reader copies of Simon Dark, and I am looking for issues 12 to 18. It was supposed to be ongoing, but it only lasted 18 issues. Fortunately, the writer and the artist, the creative team, stayed on. It's issue 10 and 11. Simon Dark, he's got this look to him that's kind of like a combination of like Freddy Krueger, Leatherface, the Crow. Definitely some of that Crow look at action. He's got this wire that he can, like, while he's jumping over you, he can wrap it around your neck, and before he lands, twist it, tighten it, pop your head off. He's kind of out there. There's a lot of room for growth with this guy because he's made of the souls of these like kids. And what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I don't know. I think it's like the souls of like 13 kids. I don't remember, but it's sort of like a black magic based character with some science thrown in. The cool thing about Simon Dark is that you've got a anti-hero based out of Gotham that doesn't need Batman in its title. It's separate from Batman. Another hero like that, I would have to say, through DC, would be Mother Panic. So if people are sick of Batman, considering how oversaturated everything is with him, one day, if people still want to keep Gotham, they're looking for a different type of hero, given the new Crow movie is going to be coming out as well. Don't know if that'll lead to a Simon Dark comeback. I'm not sure how the copyright works with Steve Niles and Scott Hampton. The only cover that had a B cover is issue number 1. If you are able to find a newsstand copy of these, Wow, more power to you. I have not seen a single one in the past like 6 years after I've returned to collecting. Winding down my whole list of comics. Seriously, 6 years ago, I had an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper covered with my to-do list, right? Both sides. And I'm down now to just, how many titles here? Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm down to 4 titles. That's all I need to complete that to-do list from 6 years ago. Wow. So I'm looking forward to finishing off this. I've only read like the first 5 issues, and I like it. There's lots of room for growth here with Simon Dark. Like I said, they wrote him very simple. He's not really a person. He's been created, and it's a little out of touch. Like the concept of murdering somebody, I don't think quite lands with him. I think there's lots of room for growth because they've got him very simple-minded, at least starting off. So we'll see how that works out. I just think he's got this dark, macabre, noirish aspect to him. I would hope that Simon Dark is on someone's radar. I would love to see him return to comics. These are from, I believe, 2008. Almost through. I just want to finish off my Clobbering Time run. I finally found issues 1 and 2. Decided to throw in for myself this B cover for issue 1, but these are written and drawn by Steve Skroce. This is just a self-contained 5-issue limited series. Had a bunch of variants, but I've got the B cover for the first 2 issues. Here's issue 2. Really my favorite cover set right here, I think. Look at this. He's having a hard day right here. Shit. Just that whole concept of writing his scales or his rocks, drawing his rocks like that. I mean, this is what I'm talking about with that new Marvel era out of the box, something new, different. This image right here, this color orange, this bright color orange with this profile, the image of the head, reminded me of when I had the Mego action figure for the Thing. Issue number 3. Really cool Doctor Strange image. And this was the one that got me hooked on the series. Second to last issue when I saw him with Doom. I was just like, oh, hell yeah, I got to get all the issues now. And the last one was some Kirby crackling. Clobbering Time, issue number 5. Now, why would that name, Steve Skroce, be familiar? Well, if you like riding the hype train, yeah, I broke down. The reason I broke down is because of this name, Steve Skroce. The reason I broke down was just because fucking end of an era here with my collecting. Like I said, I got most of the titles on my to-do list and just trying to figure out where I want to take my whole concept of comic book collecting. And right now, seeing this Steve Skroce art and Clobbering Time, and then, you know, as soon as this series ended with issue 5, he takes off with Bum Studios' Berserker, and it's just so cool. The artwork, let's take a look. This is a variant that they had, just decided to get it since we're closing off my whole comic book collecting habits for the most part. Shifting gears with how I consume comic books. Yeah. Created by Keanu Reeves. Written and illustrated Steve Skroce, if I'm pronouncing that name right. If not, my apologies. Outstanding artwork. Haven't read any Berserker. I like to follow artists. Wow. I got the likeness down of the Reeves. All right. This is my last comic for this haul. This just came out today, July 26th, Wednesday. Like I pointed out before, originally these Damian Connolly comic books were published by Behemoth, but they got bought out by Cimmerian. So this is the third part. There are 3 separate limited series that Damian Connolly has written and drawn. The first one is called You Promised Me Darkness, and I've got a review of issue 4 a couple comic book hauls back. In my summertime reading, I reviewed the whole trade paperback for You Promised Me Darkness, and that was a 5-issue limited series. It came out, 2021? And then last year, you had his 4-issue limited series called Follow Me Into Darkness. He wrote and drew those, but this last one, the third part for this whole Children of the Comet era, people that have received auras every 75 years when the comet comes by. I think the first time they've actually have a recording of people receiving powers, which they're calling auras, was in 1910. And then You Promised Me Darkness, the first limited series, focuses on his foster brother and sister that received auras from 1986. Children of the Comet. This particular limited series out from Sumerian, it's still written by Damian Connolly, but the art is by Gabriel Kikot? Not sure how to pronounce that, but I'm looking forward to checking this out. Just got it. This Children of the Comet issue 1 came out today, as well as this Berserker Poetry of Madness. Artwork here looks a little bit similar to Damian Connolly, but I'm going to be missing Damian Connolly's artwork big time. Next issue, The Birthday Party. And on that note, I float. Remember, buy what you like, invest in what you know. Until next time, much love, stay safe, peace.